This is our very first. We run webinars all over the world. We've done hundreds of these. This is our first time running a webinar with IFA, and we're thrilled to begin this new journey and partnership with you together. So thank you for having us in here today. I am going to share my screen, and I'm also looking over at everyone's names here. So when you see me looking over my shoulder this way, I'm looking at you. We've got a great group here, and I can see all of your names over on my big screen on the right. So it's nice to see you all. Now, if you've never been to a webinar with us or with me before, I'm guessing many of you have not. You're going to quickly learn that I like to keep these sessions very interactive and participatory. So before we get started with anything, I just want to make sure that you all have access. Hopefully, Haley, everyone has access to the thumbs up and the reaction buttons. Can you give me a quick thumbs up if you can hear me okay, if the volume's fine? I just want to know that you're settled and you can hear everything all right. Yeah, Andrew, thank you. I can see a hand up there. Right, Kenneth, Zahid, awesome. Julie, thank you. Great to see everyone's hands coming up and the thumbs up. Beautiful, right? Awesome, Sam. And you will also discover that I am a very, very big fan of the chat. I want to get your fingers warmed up early because this session will get rather boring if it's just me talking to myself we've got 90 minutes and I got lots to cover with you. But I need to see and want to see some questions, participation. I'm going to interact with you regularly as we go. So I want to start. Oh, Mark says you're here, but the thumbs up won't work. Okay, there's a hands up. I don't know, David, where people are doing their hands up option. I'm a host, so I might see things a little differently, but hopefully you can see a hands up option or within the chat. I don't really care. However you want to do it is just fine. I just want to make sure that you're staying active with me. And the next thing I'd like you to do, hopefully you can, though, Mark, chat with everyone you can. I'd like to know where everybody is joining from exactly. I know most of you are in the UK, so let me know where in the UK you're joining from or outside. I am here in chilly Toronto, Canada. Where we got? We've got Billy in Manchester. Oh, look at that. Kapil is in Dubai. Amazing. You're already showing me that there's people outside. Fantastic. Oh, beautiful. Got it. So Haley has said the emoji button is just on the right of the chat box. Okay, hopefully you can see it there. We got people in Kettering. Sam's in Paris. Beautiful. Awesome. Where else? All right, we've got Cleveland, Saltburn, Cleveland, and more Dubai. I love it. Sri Lankan, but joining from the Maldives. Wow, incredible. Pakistan. This is very global. Wow, we got people all over the world. I love it. Julie's in Belfast. Where else is everyone joining from? Got a nice big group here on financial modeling. Love it. I've been to a lot of these places. I've been to Dubai numerous times, France, of course, England many times, and in Pakistan. I ran a training course in my last business in Pakistan, so that was beautiful. Where else? All right, well, let's get started. I think we've got a good group here. Let's dive right into today's webinar on financial modeling best practices. I'm excited to be here. As I mentioned already, I've run this webinar for many, many accounting and finance groups all over the world, and including two yesterday, one in the UK and one in New York yesterday. So looking forward to this today. Beautiful. Let's dive in. I'm going to literally spend 5 minutes in the slides. Who wants to come to a modeling session and look at slides? So I'm going to show you a couple slides for a moment, and within a couple minutes, I'm going to spend the rest of our time in Excel. I've got some notes in Excel and a model I'm going to show you, and that's how we're going to go through all of our best practices here today. So let's dive in. First of all, very, very quickly about me. I am, as I said, based in Toronto, Canada. My entire career, over 20 years, has been spent in financial modeling. I was an investment banker for a number of years. Then I started a training company. I started a company called the Marquis Group that trained bankers and accountants all over the world for 20 years. I did that, and then I sold that business to a private equity firm a couple years ago. I created the Financial Modeling Practical Skills module, which is a mandatory part of the CFA program. We have a great partnership with CFA Institute. and I teach an advanced modeling course at Queen's University, just outside of Toronto. So I'm very, very immersed in modeling and excited to show you some great tips and skills here today. So let's kind of continue on and dive in. Very, very quickly, if you have never heard of FMI, for 30 seconds, if you've never heard of FMI, we are the world's only financial modeling accreditation organization, accreditation body. Think of FMI so we offer rigorous learning programs, but rigorous exams in financial modeling. People become professional financial modelers and expert financial modelers. Our first level program, the AFM, you work really hard until you're an expert modeler. You learn discipline, structure, design, Excel, until you can build a beautiful model from scratch. The exam is a 4-hour exam to build a full model from scratch. And anyone who passes it gets a beautiful badge with their name on it. And we've got a great, great discount at the end for you for attending the webinar. For anyone interested, I'll get to that a little bit later. And last, you're welcome to keep up with me. So this is our website, by the way. Our website is fminstitute.com. You can take a look at what we are doing there. We have a number of different accreditation programs. Our first one is the Level 1 Advanced Financial Modeler. And we have so many people joining us from over 100 countries. Many, many accountants. We've got partnerships with ACCA, ICAEW, and other accounting bodies all over the world. If you want to know what I'm up to on LinkedIn, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I post a lot. I've been posting on AI and modeling and all sorts of other modeling issues, so you can see what I'm up to here as well if you are interested. Now, let's continue and dive in, because what I want to do is move into our best practices. And to do that, I'm going to go right into Excel and start with some notes here. So first of all, question again, how many of you have built some models from scratch? How many of you have actually built a proper full financial model of a company, either your own company where you work or another company? I'm looking over at you right now. Give me a hands up or a comment in the chat. I see some hands going up. How many of you have done, some modeling in the past? Because we're going to set the stage and then show you a lot of great tips. How many of you enjoy working in Excel, and how many of you love Excel tips and tricks to work faster and more efficiently, right? Give me a quick response or hands up if you like kind of being efficient and quick with your Excel. Good. I see Robin, Kenneth, Hitesh, right? Jay, awesome. A bunch of you. So, right, Excel's great, powerful tool. It is the way that we work quickly and get our work done effectively. Now, let's dive in then and take a look at some notes. Excel lover. All right, Kapil. Nice. I love those who are honest about it. Good stuff. So let's, and I'm going to send out this notes file. We are going to send out after, so you'll get this notes file. You'll have access to my LinkedIn page. I've got a great video on how to automate colors in Excel. You can click on that. But let's talk about some best practices. So the best practices I want to review with you today are flow. We're going to spend a few minutes at the beginning talking about optimal model flow. You're going to hear me say that a lot of models are not built very well. We're going to talk about flow. We're going to talk about assumptions and managing assumptions in a financial model. We're going to talk about creating risk, managing risk, and creating a scenarios page. We're going to talk about a critical idea that I like to use called repeat and link, and then an idea called build it and link it. And I promise you, here's my promise. I promise that if you leave today's webinar, it's only 90 minutes. If you leave today's webinar and you start to deploy and use some of these techniques in your spreadsheets, I promise you will already start to have much, much better files. So let's jump in then and keep going. So very, very quickly, first of all, I like to ask, what is a financial model? I mean, I have asked this question thousands and thousands of times over the years. If I was with you in person, I would have people shout out answers at me to tell me what is a financial model. But let me give you, the simple answer that I like people when I say is this. A financial model means any sort of a spreadsheet tool or any other software that's used to make a financial decision, right? I mean, typically it is, I'm going to put a financial decision. So big picture. So at a high level, right? I'll say this at a high level. At a high level, a model, it could mean any sort of a spreadsheet or other software that you use to make a financial decision. Any tool that you use to make sort of a decision on anything could be considered a financial model. at a high level. But that's not what most of us mean. That's not what most of us mean, right? Robin is an Argus developer. Argus, awesome, used in real estate. That's not what most of us mean when we talk about financial modeling. What most people mean when we talk about the phrase financial modeling is this. A model is simply a forecast. Built in a spreadsheet, using a spreadsheet, it's a forecast of a company's financial statements. It's a forecast of a project, a division, or a whole company. But typically, when we use the word financial model, we're talking about a forecast of a project or a company into the future. That's it. And if right, it's a forecast. And if you can think of it that way, you're ready off to a good start. Now, how far into the future do people forecast, right? Great. Love it. Andrew says use for decision making. Perfect. Perfect. How far, go into the chat. How far into the future are you typically forecasting? All of you, give me a number. What's a range? What do you often see, guys? What is a common range that you see when you build your forecast? How far into the future are you typically going? Capil says 5 years. 5 is very, very common. What else are people doing? 5 years. What else have you seen? Anyone else want to dive into the chat? I'll give you a second. There might be a little delay here. 5 years for property, 10 years on cash. Robin says 5 years, 1 to 5 years. Andrew says, anyone else? What's a common range? Hitesh is 12 months. You could. You could. That's a pretty short forecast, 12 months, but it's certainly doable. Some credit bankers just do 12 months. Depends on the piece of debt. I will tell you, if you look at my screen, that 5 to 10 is the most common range. We refer to this as the model's periodicity. 5 to 10 is the most common range. But anything goes. I've seen models go 20, 30 years, 50 years. The longest model I ever saw, I was working for a client many years ago, and they had a model for a division that was forecasting 120 years. I said to them, really? Are you serious? Are you actually forecasting 120 years? You're all going to be dead by then. And they said, yeah, that's kind of silly. I don't know why we did that. And they cut it down to 60, which I thought was still way too long, but whatever. There's no perfect answer. People do different things with their forecasts. But 5 to 10 is pretty common. Now, the bigger question is why? Why are we building models? And Andrew already gave us the answer, right, Andrew? Is financial models have become the most important decision-making tools used in finance. So those working in accounting and finance roles, it is the most common decision-making tools used in the world of accounting and finance. So it is so important to know how to build a powerful, effective forecast. I need your help again. I want you to go back to the chat, please. What kind? So you're right. We use models to make decisions. What kinds of decisions? Can you type in some ideas for me? What types of decisions? What type of decisions are people making with their financial models, right? We're talking about a simple forecast, 5 to 10 years. Cash flow, Kapil, cash flow, investment. Great. What else? Investment decisions. Love it. People make investment decisions. What else? Portfolio investment. Great. Edward, good. Robin, to develop or sell. Yeah, or to keep as an investment. Love it. Buy or sell. Andrew, financial performance. Who else? Everyone else, jump in the chat. I love it. Yeah, CapEx, fixed asset decisions. Sure. Should we invest in some new CapEx? Love it. What else? What are some other reasons we build forecasts? There's lots and lots of reasons. Who else wants to provide some suggestions into the chat? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I'm sure you have some good ideas, right? Well, let me show you. There are lots and lots of reasons. Let me show you some of the most common reasons. People build models to make credit decisions, to evaluate credit opportunities, right? Loans, credit risk. People build models for, yeah, Andrew says strategic decisions. Love it. People build models to make investment decisions, buy or sell. People build models to do research forecasts, to do price targets, for valuation, security analysis. People build models for mergers and acquisitions, M&A. For leverage buyouts, doing it if you want to do a leverage buyout, an LBO transaction, you need a model. And then, of course, people build models for operational decisions, budgeting, headcount, right? Good. Moses just says to build human capital. I love it, right? Human capital, headcount, right? Moses, what's the right headcount and what should we invest in our headcount and in our people, right? Models can help us with that. They would help us with sensitivity and risk. So the point is, financial forecasts are used to make every critical decision that you ever need to make in a spreadsheet. So it sounds very simple, right? Would you agree? It sounds very, very simple. However, there is a problem. There's a big problem. The problem is that most financial forecasts, most financial models built in a spreadsheet are a mess. They're a mess. they're a disaster. They don't work very well. They're filled with errors. They're often filled with so many errors and they are hard to understand. Has anyone here, raise your hand, has anyone here opened up an Excel spreadsheet and you clicked on a formula and the formula was so long that it wrapped around and around and around? Who's ever seen that? A formula so long that it wraps around and around. And Robin says, of course, like it's natural, like it's just, show up at the office every day and see a horrible formula, right, Robin? I mean, it's par for the course. Who else has seen monster, horrendous, terrible long formulas that that give you a headache? I'm sure I see a bunch of hands going up. Sure, you have. It's very, very common and it's not optimal. And so one of the key takeaways I want you to leave with today is that's not optimal, and that makes it difficult to make a good decision. So what I want you to see is the very first takeaway from today. The very first takeaway is this. When you go back to your desk, when you finished the webinar and you start working on more Excel spreadsheets after today's webinar, I want you to realize that every good model needs to work in two different ways. Every time you build a spreadsheet for a project or a company, it has to work in two very different ways. Number one, a good model has to work well electronically. Electronically means that it works well in your spreadsheet. It has to work well in your spreadsheet. So when you click on formulas, every formula must make sense. If you click down, down, down and look at every formula, you must be able to say, that makes sense. I like that formula. I can understand it, right? So Robin, I don't want you to say, of course. Next time, Robin, you see a model, I want it to be so clean and simple that you can understand every formula without any crazy long ones. It's never optimal. And I'm going to show you today webinar how to avoid those crazy long formulas. So a good model has to work well electronically, where every formula makes sense, but it also has to work on paper or as a PDF. It has to feel like a presentation. And why do I say that? Why am I saying that? So why do we have to make sure that our spreadsheet models have to feel like a presentation, like that it can work as a PDF in addition to working as a spreadsheet? Who cares? Why do we have to be able to print our models or turn it into a PDF file? Anyone have any thoughts on that? Why are we doing that, right? Why is it so important to make sure that our models can work on paper, not just as a giant? A model is not just a giant calculator. It has to work as a presentation tool, a paper tool. Well, the answer very simply is that a good model has to be a communication tool, right? Exactly, right? Kapil says it's got to be simple to understand and summarize. Beautiful. For the reader, right? It can be reviewed and make sense. Exactly. Your model, you're all, I'm going to guess you're all accountants, which is great. What I want you to think about going forward is your spreadsheets are not just giant calculators to get an answer. They have to be a powerful communication tool. They need to be able to tell a story. You have to be able to tell a story about the project, about an opportunity. And I will also tell you that modeling is an excellent leadership development tool. If you can do a good job building models, you will be viewed very, very favorably by your clients, by your peers, by your bosses, because it means you can analyze an opportunity, communicate it, and help people make decisions. And that's an incredibly important skill set. So let's do this. Let's go take a look at the model. I want to show you a model now. This is a model called the Henderson Manufacturing Model. This is a company that manufactures large industrial storage tanks. They make giant storage tanks used by oil and gas companies and mining companies. They're called Henderson Manufacturing. This is a sample model. This is a sample model that we use at FMI. This is an example of the type of model that our candidates have to build on the AFM exam, on the Advanced Financial Modeler program. On the exam, people have to be able to build a model like this from scratch. So again, if you really want to elevate your modeling skills for your own work and become an exceptional financial modeler, we would love to welcome you into our AFM program. Your modeling skills will skyrocket. So look what I have. I have a cover page. I have an executive summary. On the executive summary, this is giving me the answers. And it's giving me the answers using a base case, using a best case, using a worst case. I have 3 different ranges of answers for this particular problem. And the next thing I have in the model is an assumption page. You can see this. I'm going to talk about it. The assumption page, very neatly and organized, lays out all the assumptions. There are some general assumptions, some equity assumptions, operating assumptions, product pricing assumptions, cost assumptions, interest rates. You get the idea. My depreciation, and then a bunch of other assumptions on my capital expenditures, on my working capital. All the key inputs I need in this model are right here up front. I'm going to talk about that. You're going to hear me say in a few minutes that in a good model, all of the assumptions must be up front. Has anyone ever seen a model? Do me a favor, raise your thumb. Has anybody ever seen a model where the assumptions were scattered everywhere? On every sheet, you'd go down to row 80 and there'd be more assumptions. And then you go down to row 300 and there'd be some more inputs and assumptions. And then on the next sheet in row 2000, more inputs scattered everywhere. Who's ever seen that before in Excel files where the inputs and assumptions were scattered all over the place, right? Raise your thumb or hand if you've seen that. I am sure you have. That is classic. It is a right. Mark says yes. That is an absolutely classic, and it's a terrible idea. So here I have all the assumptions in the model up front. We have scenarios. This is a really important page. I'm going to show you how to build this. Stay tuned and stay with me. I'm going to show you how to build a scenario page with a switch. If you want to know how to do this, I'm going to show you. Look at this. I've got a base case. I can switch to a best case, and the model switches to best case. I can switch to the worst case, and the model is now running a worst case. Very elegant to have switching mechanisms. I'm going to show this to you for a few variables. This is a key page. And then on the model sheet, I have my forecast. I have a 5-year revenue forecast. I have a 5-year cost forecast. I have a 5-year forecast for the company's income statement. You see that? There's an income statement forecast. There's a forecast of the cash flow statement and then of the balance sheet. All of the key pieces are built here on the model sheet going down vertically. And that is it. Now, what I hope you're feeling, well, does anyone have any comments? Does anyone have any initial impressions? Do you have any initial impressions of this as you just look at it? Don't look at any of the numbers, but as you look at this Excel file, do you have any first impressions just by looking at, I'm showing you a cover, an executive summary, assumptions. You see, I've got titles and subtitles. I've got labels. I've got a page called scenarios. I've got a sheet called the model. Are there any first impressions at all? Right? Just by looking at this, forget about the numbers. You don't know if they're correct. They are correct. But I'm wondering if anyone has any first instinctive impressions by looking at this. What I hope you're feeling when you look at this is that what I hope you're feeling was that that it is. I hope you're feeling that it is organized. I hope you're feeling that it is sort of neatly laid out. I hope Hitesh says a clean design. I hope you're feeling that it's clean and legible and presentable. I hope you're feeling that you could dive into it and read it. Yeah, Zahid says is a nice flow. Good. These are the kinds of things. I hope you're feeling that it flows nicely, that you could, I hope you feel like if you spent a half an hour, you could work your way through it and start to understand it. Right? And we're going in the future. Now, Robin says, the summary was a little long to consume. Sure, I showed you the summary very quickly. Robin, the summary page has to be customized. The summary page must be customized. Our client wanted this. Now, there's actually not that much on the summary page, Robin. All it is revenues for I did it very quickly. The summary page has revenue for the next 5 years. It has EBITDA with some EBITDA margins and growth rates, and it has net income. That's it. That's the only thing our client wanted to see. And it's got a net income margin and a net income growth rate. You could build charts, you could build graphs on your summary page. That's it. That's the only thing on the summary page is revenue, EBITDA, net income. And then, of course, we showed all of the answers 3 ways, running a base case, and then we did the whole thing again, running the best case, and then we did the whole thing again, running the worst case. But each table just has revenue, EBITDA, net income. That's the only thing the client wanted to see. So pretty simple. Now, what I will show you is, so this is the model. I told you that a model has to work well electronically. Now let me show you what I mean when I say a good model has to work well on paper. So if I want to take this model to a meeting, if I want to take this model to a meeting and present it to my client, because it's so common these days, we still have to be able to present a model to a client and be able to show it to them as a PDF. A lot of clients like to read analysis on a PDF or on paper. Let's look at the same model as a PDF. So here it is. Here it is now. I'm going to show you the exact same model. I printed it to a PDF. Look what it looks like. It's very, very simple and clean. Look here. First of all, it's 15 pages, 1.5. That's kind of medium. It's not that long, 15 pages. And if I kind of do a print preview, this is what it would look like if I printed it on paper or sent it as a PDF. Again, a nice clean cover page. Then a very simple executive summary. If you had it on paper, the numbers would be legible, very easy, very clear. You're just on one sheet seeing revenue, EBITDA, and net income under a base case, best and worst. That's it. That's all that we have here. Next, we have all of the assumptions. Again, very clean. You'll notice things like headers and subtitles. You notice things like I've got footer, I've got page numbers, date and time, more assumptions, and then we've got the scenarios. But watch as I want you to watch as I go down. As I press down, you've got a revenue schedule, and I go down to the cost page and down. Do you notice that every page has the same font and the same size of a font, and every page has the same title and the same amount of space? It feels like a financial presentation. And it is so important to understand flow and the way to design and structure, because this creates so much confidence for a client and a reader when they see that it is presentable. It has enormous amounts of confidence in your work if they can do this. So I wanted you to see that. Now I'm going to show you, we're going to go back into my notes file, and I'm going to talk about, flow. First of all, optimal planning and model flow are critical. A good modeler only spends about half their time in Excel. The rest of it, you're planning, you're doing research, you're working on the flow, the design, the communication. Now, here is optimal flow. I told you that a model has to flow nicely, right? That was the first takeaway I wanted you to see today. And you'll notice that in the model, I had a cover page. I highly encourage you to have a cover page in every model. It sets the stage. It makes the model feel like a presentation. It's extremely important. The next thing you noticed in the model is I had an executive summary. Many, many models do not, but it is very important to have an executive summary. It sets the stage. It provides the answer. And Robin, you could do charts, you could do graphs. You must customize the executive summary for your boss or your client. It's got to be unique to your situation, but you have to have it up front. It's the first thing the client wants to know. What they want to know, what is the answer? And after you show your client the executive summary, the next thing that they always want to know is, how did you get there? Show me all the assumptions. How did you get those answers? And you saw in our model, after I showed my client the executive summary, I immediately showed them all the inputs and assumptions we used to derive those answers. So that was the assumptions. Then, by the way, a very common assumption in models is that calculations should be black, right? And inputs are blue. You saw that. Typically in a good model, input cells are blue and formulas and calculations should be black. Anyone know why we do that, right? If you take a look here again at the model, if I go into the assumption page, anything that is a number that is typed in as an input is blue. You can see these are blue numbers. I just typed them in, and whenever you type a number in, you make it blue. Whereas anything that is a formula, a calculation here, is going to be black. These numbers, of course, are all formulas and links. And so, of course, any formula is going to be black. Why is that? Because you have to distinguish. I need to be able to see, I have to be able to tell which cells are the inputs and which ones are the formulas, so you know which ones you can play with, which ones you can change. After the assumption page in a model, you're going to want to build a scenario page. I'm going to show you how to build a scenario page. So powerful. I have some great Excel skills to show you how to build a scenario page. And then after that is the engine. All of your calculations and financial statements are here on the model sheet, right? Remember, I showed you the model sheet. This is where all of the calculations live on the model sheet. And after you build it, you don't want to come here that often. you want to spend most of your time up front on the assumption page. So optimal model flow is extremely important because it makes the model, it sets the stage and it allows you to deliver and communicate your model extremely clearly. So I strongly encourage you to make sure that when you get back to the next model at your desk, that the model flows nicely, because that will, again, improve confidence immensely when you can do that. So let's move on here. Let's move on to our agenda. I told you today we're going to talk about flow. We're going to talk about managing assumptions. I'm going to show you a really amazing Excel skill right now that I love, a great Excel tool right now. I'm going to show you on how to manage your assumptions, and then we're going to get into building the risk management tool, the scenarios page. So let's come down and talk about the assumptions. So first of all, I told you already that it's very important to keep all your assumptions up front, right? Remember I said keep all your assumptions up front. This is helpful. Why do we do that? Because people want to know, how did you get there? What decisions did you make before they look at the calculations? Before they look at your formulas, they want to know, what decisions did you make? How did you build this model? What inputs did you use? The problem is many people have their assumptions, many models, the assumptions are scattered everywhere. In many models, the inputs and assumptions are scattered on every sheet. People often do that so that they can change an assumption and see the impact right away. People often have their assumptions everywhere so that they can change an assumption and see the impact on a formula. I get that, but it's not optimal. It is very important to have the assumptions up front so someone can see all your decisions and understand how you arrived at your conclusion. So what I want to do is this. I want to show you a very powerful Excel tool that you're going to love. Now, one more time, you remember that the assumptions are here. Okay, this is where the assumptions are. And here's my assumption for the operating costs. And this is my assumption for the raw materials. You see that? I'm assuming that the raw material cost is going to be $226 in 2025, and then it will grow at inflation on a unit basis, okay? So we're assuming that the raw materials will be $226 in 2025. Okay, well, let's pretend you had to change that. Let's pretend someone said to you, let's pretend your boss said, you know what, that might not be 226 anymore. There's a lot of cost issues, and there's some problems in our logistics system. Our logistics, we think that this cost might actually be 240. We think this cost might be 240, not 226. Okay, so I made it. I changed it to 240. You see what I did? I typed in 240. Okay, but so what? So what? What did that do to my EBITDA? What did that do to my net income? I don't know. Let's go look. Let's go look. Let's go down to the cost, and let's go to the income statement. What did it do to the EBITDA, and what did it do to the net income? Well, I don't know. I can see the EBITDA net income, but I don't remember what it used to be. So I'll have to go back again. Let's go back, and I'll go back and put it where it was. I'll go back to 226. Okay, so here's what people do. People say, if it's 226, if the raw material cost is 226, let's go back to the model, then the EBITDA is 73, and the net income is 30.2. Okay, now let's go back. You see, I'm flipping back and forth. Now, if I make it to 240, I am going to see that the EBITDA dropped, the net income dropped, but it's awkward. It's awkward because I'm always jumping back and forth. So what I want to do is show you an extremely powerful skill that I think you'll like. The great skill that I want to show you is called Excel's watch window. Maybe you used it. Many people have not used it. It lives under the formulas menu here, and then it's the formulas menu watch window, but I don't want to use my mouse. I'm a big fan. I'm a big advocate of keeping your hands on the keyboard. So we're going to press Alt MW. Why? Because if I press the Alt key, I get letters on all my menus. Formulas is the letter M, so Alt M, and then watch window is the letter W. So Alt MW opens up this box called the watch window. And this is going to allow me to watch different things inside my model. It's very powerful. So let's actually go into the model and try it. Alt MW formulas watch window. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to say Alt and I'm going to click on the letter M for formulas right there. And then I'm going to click on the letter W for watch window, Alt MW. It opens it up. And let's say here, so it's blank. Right now, this box is blank. I am going to say, let's add a watch. Let's add a watch and let's go watch. Let's go watch 3 years of EBITDA. I'm going to watch 3 years of EBITDA into the future. There they are. So I clicked on the first 3 years of EBITDA and I click add. And now look, now the EBITDA is inside my watch window right here. Let me add another one. I'm going to add another one. I'm going to go to the model sheet and I'm going to select 3 years of net income. And I clicked on these and click add. And now net income is also in my watch window. It's extremely powerful. So why? Because now I can see the EBITDA and I can see the net income. So take a look at this. If I was to ever change the raw material cost to 240 and I press enter, watch what happens in the watch window when I press enter. Every number changed. I can look at numbers all over the place. I can be looking at models all throughout the model and see them. I can see how they're changing right up front. As I play with an assumption, I can see what the impact is right away on the key formulas in my model. I can look at NPVs, IRRs, I've got EBITDAs, I've got net income. I can see the results right here. It's a very, very powerful tool, and I believe that every Excel spreadsheet can benefit from this. Who's going to try this? Raise your hand. Raise your hand or go to the chat if you think you're going to try this watch window. I want to see who's going to. Yeah, Robin says, brilliant, very powerful for sure. I love it. Let me know how that goes. I hope you enjoyed. Yeah, Edward says, of course. Yeah, who else is going to try it? Because I'm asking you because now you're committed. Andrew says, amazing. Yeah, it is amazing. And it's so simple, right, Andrew? It's so simple. Nobody knows about it. It looks interesting. It's so simple. I want to show you another tip. Maybe you're going to like this one as well, Andrew. You know what people sometimes say to me? So, Andrew, you can see it, right? You can see I've got 3 years of EBITDA. I've got 3 years of net income, right? Assad says you'll use it. Great. So guys, you see this? I've got 3 years of EBITDA, 3 years of net income, good. But if let's pretend I got some credit ratios below and then I added some NPVs. You might complain to me that you don't know what everything is. You might say, I don't know. I never remember. Is this the EBITDAs and this is the net income? I don't remember which ones are which. Can you label them? Robin says, can we label them? Exactly. I thought you might want to know. Well, yes, I can. I can use this column called name. Watch what I do. What you need to do is this. If you go to the model sheet, do you know that by default, every single cell has a name? And by default, every single cell's name is its address. So the name of this cell is K92. That's the name of this cell. And the name of my net income is K104. That's its name. Well, you can change that name. What if I went to the EBITDA and I went into the name box and I called it EBITDA? Just as a placeholder, and I click enter, look at this, boom, it shows up in the watch window. And if I go to the next one, net income, and I just do one of them, just do one, and I type in net income and press enter, boom. Now I know that these ones are EBITDAs, and these ones are net incomes, and the next three are NPVs, and the next three are IRRs. Is that good, right, Edward? That worked? Yeah, nice, right? So simple, right? You guys got that, Robin and Edward? Simple. I hope you all like that. It's so powerful. Please, please use this. It's a good one. It will save you lots of time. And what this does, this tool, is it allows you to have your assumptions up front, change the assumptions, and immediately see what it's doing to your answers deep inside your model. Okay, very powerful. I wanted you to see that because it is so helpful and so many people just don't know that it exists. So I really hope that you guys use it and try it in your work. Okay, let me go back and put in 226 here and we're good to go. Now, let's continue on. So I told you we were going to talk about flow, managing assumptions, and then now building a scenario page, modeling uncertainty. So I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes showing you how to model uncertainty because all companies deal with uncertainty. All companies deal with uncertainty. There is no company in the world, that is not dealing with some uncertainty. It is so important to capture uncertainty in every model. Look at my notes here. All models need to deal with uncertainty. Here's the thing. Some assumptions in models, some assumptions are very easy to forecast because they don't change much. So an example might be a tax rate or your interest rate on fixed debt. Some assumptions are very easy to forecast. Like, let's say you have a labor force, and the labor force, they have a salary, and the salary is fixed salary, and it's going to go up at inflation. Well, that's easy to forecast because everyone has a contracted salary and it goes up at inflation. That's easy. But some assumptions are hard to forecast. They can change a lot. They can change a lot year over year, like exchange rates, economic variables, commodity prices. What are some other variables hard to forecast? Inflation, revenue growth for some companies is hard to forecast. Anyone else have any other ideas? Give me an example of some variables that are hard to forecast. Right? Let's keep in mind some assumptions are very easy to forecast. They don't change much, like an interest rate on fixed debt. That's not going to change much. But some assumptions are very hard to forecast, like economic variables, like revenue growth, sales prices, sales volumes. And what I would say is for the hard variables, for these variables that are hard to forecast, we want to have multiple options in the model. We want to run the model with more than one choice. Like an example, you might want a base case, a best case, and a worst case, so you can look at more than one option in the same model. As a result, every single model that you ever build should have a scenarios page to capture these variables. They're so important that we have a special name for them. We call them the key drivers. These assumptions are the key drivers in the model. And what I want to show you is that there are 3 steps to build a scenario page. Let's go take a look at it then, okay? Let's go take a look at the model. So here are the basic assumptions. This sheet, the assumption page, has all the key basic assumptions that are easy to forecast, right? For instance, I know what my operating costs were last year, and I think that they will grow at inflation. Okay, I know my interest rates. So we just have one assumption case for each of these variables. But on the scenario page, I have 3. I have a base case, best case, and a worst case. I have a base, best, and a worst set of assumptions for cost inflation because I don't know what the cost inflation will be exactly. I have a base, a best, and a worst for the sales prices. I don't know if the sales prices are going to go up or down. It's cyclical. And I've got a base, best, and a worst for sales volume. I don't know exactly what the sales volume will be. So we're forecasting upside and a downside. Okay, fine. So what I want to show you is this. What I want to show you is there are 3 steps. There are 3 steps to build a scenario page into a model. And let me show them to you. Step number one is to enter the assumptions into the large rectangles. I'm going to show that to you. Enter the assumptions into the large rectangles. Those numbers, they'll be blue. The second step is to enter the number 1 as a switch. You're going to build yourself a switch. I'm going to show this to you and demonstrate it. And then finally, we're going to use a formula to run the live case. We'll use a choose or a VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP to run the live case. And let's go look at what I'm talking about. So what I told you is in our model, do you see this? I have a base, best, and a worst case for the cost inflation, for the sales prices, and sales volumes. Because I don't know exactly what those numbers are going to be in the next 5 years. So step one is to do this. Step 1 is to populate the large rectangle. The large rectangle has our data inputs, right? The large rectangle is our inputs. And as a result, these are blue numbers. When I told you blue numbers are inputs. So these numbers are your inputs. These are your assumptions. I've got a base case assumption, a best case, and a worst case, and they are blue. And what I will tell you is, how do you arrive? How do you determine the assumptions? Well, you will do research or ask your boss. Or ask your client. How do you determine what the assumptions should be? This is just about doing research. Look at some research reports. talk to your boss, talk to your client, and you decide what should the assumptions be for the base case, the best, and the worst for all of your key drivers. So I did that for cost inflation, we did that for sales prices, and we did that for sales volumes. That's step one, is to build these large rectangles. Step one, and step one. Easy. Step number two, I'm going to move this out of the way. Step number two is to go to a blank cell. Step number two is to go to a blank cell and put a numeric value. Put the number one. Put the number one into the cell. So you see here, I've got the number one. That is my switch. And that is going to change what's running in the model. That's how I'm going to change. That's how I'm going to change from the base case to the best to the worst. So step one, enter your assumptions. Step two, put a cell that has a number one. That's your switch. And then finally, on step three, this is the live case. This is the live case. This is the skinny row is, you notice it's black. The skinny row is black. And what we're going to say is this case is, this is the case that's actually running in the model, right? Right now, I have my switch at a 1 for base case. So the model is running the base case. But if, of course, I put 2 in here for best case, well, now my model is running the best case because this is the case that's actually running into the model. It's best. And if I put a 3, the model will now run the worst case option here. It's very simple. So how do we build it? So how do I build the formula? So this is my switch. So I told you step one is Step one is to put in your different cases in a box. Step two is to have a switch. Step three is to build a formula that looks at the switch. That's what we're going to do, right? We're going to build a formula that looks at the switch. And if the switch is a 1, it will pull up the base value. And when there's a 2 in the switch, it will lift up the best. And if there's a 3 here, it will take out the worst. What do you think is a common way for people to build this? Guys, go to the chat and type it. What is a very common way? What is a common way? Yeah, XLOOKUP would work, Robin. XLOOKUP, it might be a little bit more power than we need here, but a common way to build it, what a lot of people would do, I can't use the data validation yet. I can do that instead of my switch. What I'm saying is I need a formula. I need a formula in this row. And I'm going to show you guys right now. I'm going to show you one of my all-time favorite Excel skills. So common ways to build are with, a lot of people will do this with an if statement, right? Can you imagine an if statement? An if statement would say, if this switch is equal to a 1, right? If the switch is equal to a 1, then go grab the base case option here. Otherwise, if the switch is equal to 2, then get the best case, and if not, then the worst case. Now, this is called a nested if statement, an if inside an if inside an if. How many people have ever seen a huge long nested if statement that wraps around and around? How many of you have seen huge long crazy if statements? Raise your hand if you've seen big crazy long if statement formulas. I'm guessing many of you have. Yes, Assad says yes, and a bunch of hands going up. You have. It's not optimal. What I prefer to do, to use, one of my all-time favorite skills is Excel's choose function. Watch this one. Instead of using an if, what we're going to do is we're going to use this choose function. The choose function is so simple and it's so elegant, and that's why I love it. Look what it says, guys. The choose function says, where's your switch? So I've said link to this cell here. This is the switch. And then it wants to know, where are the choices? So I've said, well, H14 is the first option. H15 is the second option. H16 is the third option. And the way it works is this. If this switch cell has a 1, if that cell has a 1, the choose will take the next item in the list, the first one. If there's a 2 in the switch, it will take the second one. And if there's a 3, it will take the third one. That's it. It looks at the switch, and when the switch is a 1, it takes the first, a 2, a second, and the 3, it'll take the third. It is so elegant and so simple. Clients love this function because it's so easy to understand and so simple. Who's going to try this? Go to the chat. Who is going? Let me know the chat or show of hands. Who is going to try using a choose function now in your spreadsheets? It is so simple. It's so elegant. Definitely, Robin says, Essen. Who else will? This is yeah, definitely a smart option to save time. I will try, right, Zubaria? Good. It's so easy. And I promise you it's easy to understand. And I promise you your boss is going to love it because it's so simple. Once you explain it, it stays short and small. And yes, it does save time and it's efficient. Good. A bunch of raised hands. Please give it a shot. So what I wanted you to see is this. I wanted you to see that every model you ever build should have a scenario page, right? Every model should have a scenario page, and every scenario page should have more than one case, more than one case. And the way you do it is you type in your cases up front as assumptions, is blue assumptions. You enter a switch into a cell by itself. This is just the number one. And then you can use well, a function. You can use an if statement, but I would much rather you use a choose function to look at the switch and pull out one of the three options. Okay, very powerful, right? Edward says we'll try. Very easy, very powerful. Now, the last thing I have to show you is this. And if you have questions, please type them in the chat. The last thing I have to show you is this. I don't want anyone to ever see this number. I don't want anyone to touch that number, and I don't want anyone to even see that switch number in my cell. Why not? What's the problem with that number one? Anyone want to type it in? What's the problem with having that number one just sitting there? Why don't I want my boss or my client to see it? Because I don't. I don't want my boss or client to see this one. What's the problem with having that one there as a switch? Um, Could get volatile, sure. Should. What else? Why else? Why else is it not a good idea to leave that number one of exposed and visible like that? Um, yeah, right. So Hitesh is saying people might type in a four. And by the way, Hitesh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen if I type four? I have three options. Okay. I have three options. The choose function said, look at the switch, And when the switch is a one, grab the base. If it's a two, take the best, and three, the worst. What's going to happen if your boss types in a four? Well, if your boss types in a four, of course, you're going to get an error message, and you don't want that. So you need to restrict their usage. The other reason people don't like having this switch available is because it doesn't mean anything. It's not clear. It's not very helpful. So what I want to show you how to do, what I want to show you right now is how do we build this beautiful, elegant, how do I build a beautiful, elegant drop down like this that allows me to run a base, a best, and a worst? And I'm going to show you how do I build this instead. It's so simple, but there's some steps. So bear with me. I want to build one of these drop down menus. And what you do is you go to your developer menu and you click insert. You click on the developer menu and you click insert. But hang on a second. Some of you are probably thinking to yourself and saying, I don't have the developer menu. I don't even have it. Most people do not have the developer menu because it's usually off. It's always off when you install Excel, but you have it. You have to enable it. Does anyone not, if you are in Excel right now, does anybody not see the developer? Raise your hand or go to the chat if you do not have the word developer on your screen. If you do not. Okay, then I'm guessing most of you do, or you're not saying. But let me show you. Let me just quickly show you how to get it. If you discover that you have a computer that does not have the developer, you're going to go here, File. You're going to go File, and then you're going to go to Options down at the bottom. Do you see this? I'm going to go File, Options at the bottom. And when I'm in the File Options, I'm going to say Customize the ribbon right here. We're going to say Customize the ribbon. And on the right, you're going to turn on the developer. By default, the developer is off. So put a green check mark there. Put a green check mark in File, Options, Customize the ribbon, and then turn on the developer. And then you will see a brand new developer menu at the very top. Make sense, guys? Did everyone get that? Okay, this is being recorded again if you missed it or need it again, but it's not a big deal. I want you to just have this menu on your screen. Okay. Now let me keep going here. So now that I have it, let me show you how to build it. I need one more minute to show you how to build it. Watch this. I'm going to click on developer and I'm going to click insert. And what I want to do is I want to insert the form controls and I want to get the combo box. You see my screen there? I want to get the form controls and I want the combo box. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to click on that. And what it does is it gives me this cursor. Do you see my cursor? And it wants me to draw. That's a drawing tool. It wants me to draw that cursor, that item. So I just drew a giant box. I simply drew a giant drop-down box. And now I'm going to right click. I'm going to right click and say format this control. Let's format this new drop-down box that I am building. And it wants to know two things. It wants to know the input range and the cell link. Look how easy. The input range just means where is the range of words? Where's the range of words and text that you want to see inside the dropdown? So the words live here, base, best, and worst. And the cell link means where's the actual switch? Where's the numeric switch that controls the model? That's here. So input range is the labels. The cell link is the actual cell that controls the switch. When I click OK, look what happens. I now have this beautiful brand new dropdown. Now, don't worry about it. It always starts by putting a 0. It always starts by putting a 0 and giving you errors. Don't worry about that. Now, all I have to do is open it up and I can see the word base case, best, and worst. If I click on base case, it puts a number 1 into my cell. If I click on best, it puts the number 2 in the cell. And if I click on worst, it puts the number 3. So I don't have to worry about changing this number. My drop down is going to change that number for me. And all I have to do now is go back to my drop down. I'm going to make it much smaller. I'm going to grab it and make it. I'm going to grab it and cover it up. That's it. So again, all I wanted you to see is I now have this beautiful drop down. It's changing the number behind it, and that number is driving these choose functions. It's very powerful, very simple, very elegant, and your client and your boss will love it. Who's going to try this? Who's going to raise your hands if you're going to go back to your desk and build in a scenario page? I want to know who's going to try building a scenario page with your assumptions, with your choose function, with a drop down, right? Definitely. Jabari says, I will try. Robin, yes. Edward, yes. Good. I just want to know who is going to give it a shot, because I promise you, if you give it a shot, you'll figure it out very quickly with my video or with today. And then you'll always, always be able to build in these types of cases in your model. Okay, good on that then. So let's finish up. So let's see where we're at. So that was, so what I showed you here is, so to build a scenario page, I told you again, 3 steps: enter the assumptions in the large rectangles, enter a number 1 as your switch, and then use a function to run it. And I showed you the choose function. I think that's the best one. There are others you can use, but I think the cleanest, simple option is the choose function. And then I said, we like to build switches to control the scenario. I just showed that to you. It's on the developer menu. And here it's always off. The developer menu is always off at the beginning. When you turn it on, it'll always stay on. So you need to turn it on only once. Again, file, options, customize ribbon. Do that and you will be flying with much, much better risk management and options in your models. Kapil says, quick question. Will we receive the presentation notes and worksheet? Yes, you're going to. Yes, we will be sending these to IFA. When the session is over, you will receive my notes. You will receive this model, and you will receive these the slides that I'm showing you as well. I don't know what happened to them. Yeah, the slides are here. We're going to send all of that out, Kapil, so you're going to get everything when we're done. Okay, so let's come back to my notes. So I showed you how to manage uncertainty. All models need a scenario page. The last 2 things I want to show you, I've got about 10 minutes to go. And then I'll take some questions before we wrap up. And let's do that. So we've talked a lot about optimal flow. If your models flow, they will be perceived so much better. You know, sometimes I like to say that the number one reason models fail, that spreadsheets models fail, is because of poor design. There is no close second. The number one reason models fail is bad design. Bad design of the sheets, the worksheets, bad design of the formula structure, bad design of the Excel skills used. When your model is long and clunky and not well designed, it's very hard to use. It's the number one reason why models fail is bad design. So we talked about flow. We talked about managing the assumptions with the watch window, right? And I showed you how to build a scenario page with the inputs, with a choose function, with a developer tab, drop down box. These are ideas that will elevate your models immediately and quickly. And by the way, so let's finish things up here. I got two last things I want to talk about, and these are powerful. These, as accountants, I think you're going to appreciate these two ideas. The last two ideas that I want to share with you here today are the ideas of, let me copy these down, repeat and link and build it. Key modeling concepts. These are critical modeling concepts, the ideas of repeat and link and build it and link it. And what this one means, they're similar. What this one means, repeat and link, is that you should always repeat your assumptions before you use them in calculations. Every one. Before you ever use an assumption in a formula, repeat the assumption. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's go to the model. So in the model, do you notice, I gotta just fix my model here. So do you notice in my model that I have a revenue schedule? And the revenue schedule is doing this. Watch, guys. It's got a section on pricing. It's got a section on sales volume. And then the revenue at the bottom is very, very simply A times B. P times V, price times volume. Sales price times volume. There's a gross revenue. Then there is freight and warehousing charges, which get deducted off gross revenue. And then there's a net. So the gross sales price is $725. The net price is $621. I've got a gross revenue. I've got freight and warehousing, and I've got net revenue. Look, first of all, look how simple these formulas are. My revenue, price times volume. My freight and warehousing is the freight per unit multiplied by the volume. And then my net revenue is the gross revenue minus the freight. So simple, so easy. But what I want you to see is this. On my pricing section, we have gross pricing, and then we have to deduct freight and warehousing in order to arrive at net pricing. Well, what did we do? To build this effectively, I first repeated. We simply repeated the gross sales price from the scenarios H23. So I've repeated the sales price from here. We just linked it. It's a direct link to the live case, to this row here. So we repeated the gross sales price. I repeated the cost inflation. So there's the cost inflation repeated. And then the freight and warehousing charge is just last year. Look how simple. Last year multiplied by 1 plus the growth rate. It's all right there. And then the net selling price is gross minus the freight. So simple. But can I tell you something? This is not what most people do. This is not what most people do. What most people would do, most people would not repeat the gross and the gross price and the inflation. So what most people would do is this. They would say equals. They would go back to the scenario page and click on the 800. That's the gross price. And then they would subtract. Okay. And then they would build a formula right here. And they would subtract the prior year's freight and warehousing multiplied by 1 plus the inflation, but they're not going to link to the inflation here. They're also going to link to the inflation right over here. Now, so do you see what I'm doing? I'm just building it here. So instead of linking everything on the same sheet, now my formula says take the gross price minus last year's freight multiply by 1 plus the inflation. Should I get the same number? Should this give me the same answer that I had before? Will I get the same answer that I had a moment ago? Let's see. I did. I got the same answer. Do you see that? I got the same answer. I got the same answer here. Um, you'll notice I have the exact same answer. Oops, let me just do one decimal spot. I have the same answer, but this is the difference. When you use this idea that says repeat and link, always repeat your assumptions before you use them in a formula. When you use this idea, look what happens. I repeat one assumption. It's so simple. I repeat another one. I build another simple formula on freight, and then my net sales price is A minus B. So simple. When people don't do that, then they don't repeat values. When people don't repeat the values, then my net price would just be this. In many models I've looked at, that's what the net price would look like. They would take a number on one sheet minus a number here, multiplied by 1 plus the growth rate. It gets long and clunky, right? How many of you have seen formulas like this where the cell is linking to formulas on a few different sheets? I am sure you've all seen this. This is not optimal. It's not easy to understand. It's not optimal. My strong recommendation is repeat, build a tiny formula, all the way down. Look, I'm repeating another variable, repeat, a tiny formula, all the way down. This is the most elegant, effective way to build any model, is keeping it simple. This is a great formula, this one here. This is the same answer, and it's a terrible formula. It's going to have mistakes. It's hard to audit. It's hard to check. And if you build a model with hundreds of formulas like this, it makes it very difficult to understand. So that is the first. That is the second last tip. Repeat and link. The very last tip I want to share with you says build it and link it. What this means is when you build a model, there should be no work on your financial statements. You never want to have work on the financial statements. All your work should happen in calculations on schedules. All your work should happen on schedule. So let's take a look here. In my model, so you see I've got a revenue schedule. My revenue schedule derives down to the net revenue, the gross revenue, and then my net revenue. Okay, done. Now I have a cost schedule. The cost schedule shows the variable costs, the fixed costs, and it works its way down to the total company costs. This is the total cost on my cost schedule. Now look at my income statement. As I mentioned above, there should be no work on the income statement. There should be no big formulas on the income statement. When I click on gross revenue, look at this. It's just a very, very simple link, K26. It's linking on the same sheet right above. It's simply linking to the revenue from the revenue schedule. You build it and then you link it. Build a schedule, link it in. What about my cost of goods sold? Cost of goods sold, same thing. It's just linking to the schedule above. Build it and then link it. Build it, and then link it. Every single cell on my income statement is just a link. The depreciation is linking to a depreciation schedule down below. The interest expense is linking to an interest expense schedule down below. The taxes, same thing, a tax schedule below. When you do that, you will have beautiful, organized, powerful, clean models that allow you to make very important decisions and really create a lot of confidence and impress everyone that you're working with. So I wanted you to see that. This is the fundamentals of what I want to see. We're right on time. We've got some time for questions. But I wanted you to see that modeling is a discipline. Modeling is a skill. And we would love, as I said, we'd love to have some of you, if you really want to elevate your skill set, if you really want to know how to do this, we'd love to welcome you into our Advanced Financial Modeler AFM accreditation program. You will be so proud of yourself because in the program you'll go, there are 15 hours of videos that show you how to do this from scratch with lots of Excel tips and skills. But then you're going to practice and you're going to practice and you're going to practice. And then you're going to sit an exam. And the exam requires you to build a model exactly like this from scratch. And when you can do that, you will know that you can model any project, any company in the world that you need to model. And we would love to kind of see you get there. I will show you if you're interested. My colleague David will put a link into the chat. We've got a time limited special 20% off discount for anyone interested in elevating your skills. This, you can take a picture of that. There's a QR code, or click on the link that David just put into the chat. If that's interesting, let us know. If you have any questions, you can let us know. We are helping people all over the world really elevate their skills. And it's not us, it's you. People who go through it work so hard and they really become phenomenal modelers. I'm going to show you one last thing and then take questions. At the bottom of our webpage, we have a great page on testimonials. And the testimonials is amazing. These are actual, this is a partner at Deloitte in Denmark. He is a manager at EY, at PwC. And these people all went through and got their AFM. Some of them went on to get the CFM, and they're very, very pleased. They're very proud that they have really elevated their skills and are very confident with their new level of modeling skills. So you can click that and take it out. Do anyone look at that? This was very, very one of the, honestly, still excited about it. It became one of the 291 new AFMs. Right? People are very, very pleased. We'd love you to join them and elevate your own skills. Does anyone have any questions that you want me to talk about? We still have some time. Great question. So Zahid is asking a question here. You can just put your questions into the chat if you have them. So Zahid is saying, Zahid has an excellent question, and he has said, how do models differ by sector? Let me take that. Let me just say it that way, Zahid. Zahid is saying, how do financial models differ by sector? He is saying, for example, how would a manufacturing business differ from a service business? Here's the nice thing. You want to know the nice thing? I'll go to my notes. When you can, model one company, you can then model any company. I will tell you why is that? Because I will tell you that's because 90, I would say 90, why can't I find 90% of the sections are the same for all models. The only thing that differs, the only thing different, the only sections that are a little different are the revenues and costs sections. That's it. So if you're modeling a manufacturing business, you have to understand things like the sales prices and how do they derive their gross price down to the net price. You have to understand their manufacturing capacity, right? In a manufacturing business, they might have a capacity. They might have a factory capacity, and you have to make sure that you don't go above the capacity. This Henderson is a manufacturing company, and then you get down to revenue. But you still have prices and volumes. You still have prices and volume. A service business still has prices and volumes, right? A service, let's say I'm modeling an accounting firm. Let's say I want to build a model for an accounting firm or for a law firm, any service business, a painting company that does painting jobs. It's no different. It's really no different. The revenue schedule would show how many service providers, how many accountants did you have? And how many hours a year can they work? And what's the average efficiency? That gets you down to the volume. What about pricing? Well, if it's an accounting firm, then I know what's the average hourly rate for a senior partner? What's the average hourly rate for a junior partner? What's the average hourly rate for an associate? So I have the average hourly rates by the different types of people. And then I have my volume is the number of people by category and how many hours of work they're working per year. And ultimately, I build up to price times volume. It's exactly the same thing. You could model an oil and gas company, a mining company, a power plant, a bank, same. That was a great question. But the only major difference between sectors is the revenues and costs, and it's not even that different. It's honestly, I have built models probably for about 100 different companies over the years in different sectors. When you can do one, you can do any. You ask questions to the finance team. You ask, how does the revenue work? How does the cost work? They help you explain it, and you build it all up. Moses says, what if I want to present it graphically? Well, I got to tell you, you can present things more graphically, but I still strongly encourage you to do this, Moses. I still strongly encourage you to make sure, where did it go here? I still strongly encourage you to make sure that you can print the model like this. Because I promise you, Moses, there will always be some people who say, that's nice that you've got graphs, Moses, but they'll say, but I want to see the model. I still want to see your model. You will always have people who say, show me the numbers. Show me the assumption numbers. Show me exactly how you built up revenue. Some people don't want to see charts and graphs for everything. They still want to see, how did you build all the calculations, either in Excel or as a PDF? So it has to be clean. When we do build in visuals graphically, we do it on the executive summary. Your executive summary page could be just, if your client, my client, for this model, the client wanted tables. But some clients would prefer to see the revenue, EBITDA, and net income in graphs. This box could have had a graph for revenue, a graph for EBITDA, a graph for net income, or they could have all been in one graph. Didn't matter. Or you could use you could do this. You want to see a really cool trick, a cool skill here? I'll show you. If you want to do graphical illustrations, you can do something that I like a lot in models. Watch this one, Moses. Tell me if you enjoy this. What some people will do is they can do little graphical you can add little graphical tools right in a cell. This is neat. You can insert, where is it here? You can insert what's called spark lines. So a spark line will do this, right? If I say, if I was to highlight this whole row, let's do this. Let's say I go here and I want to say insert a spark line and I want it to be a line, okay? Then it wants to know, where's the data range? I'm going to say the data range for this spark line is the revenue cell and put it in G11. Watch this. Cool. So now I have like a graph right in the cell. That's a really nice way to add visual. Here's for my EBITDA and here's net income. So you can actually have the numbers, but have a little graphical trend right there. What if this was not 268? What if in the final year it dropped to 150? Keep your eyes, Moses, on this little chart here, right? Automatically drops down. So there's a lot of nice things you can do. If you want to keep it visual, I would encourage you to have visual graphs and charts on the summary page, but still make sure you can present the whole model because someone will want to see it. Does that make sense? Do you like these? And when you have these lines, you can format them. You can have them be different colors. You can switch the color of these lines. You can have markers. You can have, you can do all sorts of things with them, right? You can put on so there's really cool. You can do some really neat things visually with your models, whatever you like. I'm most concerned that you know how, but here's the thing. Before you can do any visuals, you got to get the numbers right. You got to get them clear. You got to get them organized and you got to get them right. Once you do that, the graphical part is easier. Hitesh says, do you incorporate Power Query and dashboards in your modeling? So we're not a training firm, Hitesh. We don't have courses, and we have learning materials. So if you were to join us, you would come into, this is the FMI community. And inside the community, we have learning materials. So this is the AFM learning materials, and it is 60 videos that walk you through step by step how to build the revenues, the costs, how to build the depreciation, how to build income tax, how to build working capital, debt, equity, and the financial statements, and we get into the outputs. So we show you how to build a full model from scratch, and then you practice and you practice and you do practice exams until you can do it. We do not use Power Query is not really needed in financial modeling like this. Power Query is much more about cleaning up large volumes of data. Power Query is all about cleaning up data for data analysis, data management. So it's not part of this learning materials. And dashboarding, we don't get into dashboarding. There's a lot of cool things you can do on dashboards. I already showed you a couple little things here. You can use the built-in charts and graphs in Excel. We don't get into that. We just want to make sure that you know how to build a beautiful best-in-class model. That's our goal. Okay, everybody is still here. Amazing. Any other questions before I turn it back to Haley and we wrap things up? Listen, I hope you've got a few new ideas about modeling, and I hope you appreciate a better sense for the discipline. Modeling is a discipline. Modeling requires you to know accounting, finance, Excel, design ideas, structure, flow. There's so many pieces of building a good model. And everyone who comes into modeling is strong at some and not strong at others. And you will be, we really want to help you become an excellent modeler. I hope you have a better sense for the discipline of modeling, the structure, and I'd love to be in touch. If some of you have questions or want to connect with us, we would love to chat with you. So, Haley, I don't see anything else, so I'll invite you back. And we've got a few minutes to spare, but if you want to wrap things up, then Haley, by all means, we'll let everyone get on with their day. I really happy to see everyone here. Thanks for joining from all over the world, from all over Europe and Dubai and the UK, France, everywhere. We've had people from all over the place, and that was another comment, right? So thank you, everyone. Thank you. I don't know where Haley is, so maybe I will. Oh, there she is. Welcome
Hi.
back, Haley. I'll let you say hello and wrap everything up then.
Thanks, Ian. That was brilliant. Really great. And as Ian said, you will receive the recordings, all the information that Ian has provided within the next 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you right after this.
Perfect. And then I'll send it to all members.
Great. Thank you, Robin. I appreciate. Wow. Fantastic. Look forward to being in touch. Thank you. Tell Haley, not me, maybe, but I appreciate that. So, if and you know what, we have a whole series. If people are interested in more, we've got another webinar that you'll love on skills to check and audit models, where I whip through tons of Excel skills to check and make sure your models are perfect. We've got one on, advanced Excel skills that people use in models. We've got a new one on AI and modeling, how people are using AI. So Haley, lots to talk about. You guys can let Haley know if you're interested, if you want to do more of this kind of thing. I'm doing these all over the world. We do these all the time for ACCA, ICEW, CFA Institute, and we're thrilled to be, working with IFA. So if you're interested, let Haley know, and we can do things. Thank you, Zubaria, Kapil. I appreciate it. I hope this helps, and would love to be in touch. So Haley, thank you for
Thank
hosting
you,
us,
Ian.
and we look forward to being in touch. So thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Take care,
everyone.
everybody.